Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Covers Face Off on the Scratch a Track podcast, presented by the Dude and Grimm Show. I am the Dude.
And I am Grimm. And today we are going to discuss a nice little ditty called Quinn the Eskimo, in parentheses, Mighty Quinn.
I was going to do
Or as I believe Manfred Mann's cover of it simply just
Mighty Quinn.
Was Mighty Quinn. Now,
makes sense to me.
Normally we would do this in chronological order. This is an interesting one.
It's
I would say unique in any of the covers face-offs that we've done.
very
Simply because the song was originally recorded by Bob Dylan and the band during the Basement Tape sessions. Now, the Basement Tape sessions, although recorded in what I believe 1967, didn't get released until 75. And this song did not make it on those recordings. It was a double album, I believe. This song did not make it on there. Now, interestingly enough, if you look at the track listing for the Basement Tapes, a lot of songs did make it on there that I don't think it was these versions necessarily, but went on to become songs that were either on the band's first album, Music from Big Pink, or some subsequent releases. And I know at least a couple of them, I picked up the deluxe version of Music from Big Pink some time ago on CD. And I know that Orange Juice Blues, Blues for Breakfast.
I love some Blues for Breakfast.
I think Katie's Been Gone. And I'm pretty sure Long Distance Operator made it on that deluxe version. And I believe they are these Basement Tapes recordings.
Interesting.
So I digress. But anyways, Quinn the Eskimo did not make it on those.
Which is pretty interesting because now I don't know if that was strategic, maybe because Manfred Mann kind of released the song and Dylan or his publishing company or whoever it was said, hey, we're going to hold this one back. But dude, during those basement sessions, they recorded over 100 songs. And I guess, half of them they said were kind of covers, traditional folk, blues, some rock stuff and everything. And then the other half they said were Dylan originals. And then in 68, there was his publishing company, Dwarf Music. They released kind of like this private demo. And I don't know. I don't think this song was on it, but it could have been. I don't know. But then there was kind of the release of the bootlegs, which was people know as the Great White Wonder in 1969. And this song also was not a part of it. And I don't think it was a part of it on when CBS released the Basement Tapes in 75.
No, it wasn't.
But, so we actually haven't even heard the version of this song from the Basement Tapes. But apparently Manfred Mann heard it, and that's where they decided to cover and record it, right? I mean,
and I think it's really interesting that they were able to cover this song and put it out there. And my guess is, especially back then, before you had, I don't know, the internet and this constant flow of
LimeWire.
LimeWire. Yeah, pre-Napster. And you had, before you had this flow of information from all over the world, I'm sure unless people, looked at the credits, that obviously would have had to say that Dylan was the writer. Most people probably heard it on the radio, had no clue that Dylan. I mean, hell, I remember growing up as a kid, listening to the oldies radio with my parents, and I knew this song I've always liked this song. I didn't know that Dylan wrote it until I heard his version that was first released on the 1970 Self-Portrait album, which was actually a live recording from the Isle of Wight Festival in 1969, and I believe still with the band because, dude, Levon Helm's voice is pretty unmistakable, and you can hear him plain as day in the background, and I honestly thought, based on what I knew the Basement Tapes were, I always thought that version was from the Basement Tapes and was kind of surprised to hear that it wasn't.
Right. Because if you listen to it, actually, it sounds like it was recorded in a basement. Yeah. And not this huge festival.
Yeah, you don't hear crowd noise.
No, nothing. There's no bleed through or anything.
And that's what was really interesting to me. I mean, it does sound like it would have been a Basement Tape, but
Dude, I love hearing stories. I'm going to digress for a second.
Yeah.
About, you hear these things about the basement tapes. You hear Queens of the Stone Age, like, Josh Homme, like the Desert Sessions and all these sort of, I don't know, you want to call them jam sessions or whatever, however you define them. But it's just like people getting together and playing music. I mean, can you imagine being 1967, 68, Bob Dylan hanging out at his house and you're like the band and you're just, dude, having cocktails and smoking grass and just like, dude, just hanging out with Bob Dylan and just playing music. And they were probably like half of these songs were like covers and stuff.
Yeah.
So they're like probably just shooting the shit and be like, oh, hey, this song? Oh yeah. Okay, let's play it. But and let's record it. I mean, that's pretty cool when you hear about sort of musicians getting together and jamming. It reminds me of another one when I think it was when Hendrix, I don't know if it was when he must have been in London.
Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison.
Oh, yeah. Classic.
Yeah, that'll be a whole nother episode
dude.
there.
Yeah, that'll be a month. I think it was when he was recording Electric Ladyland. He talked about how he would there would be clubs and bars around his studio, and he'd go out at night and he'd meet people and talk to people. And then they'd just come back. He'd kind of bring the party back to the studio and they'd just record until morning and play and mess around and everything. It's really cool to kind of hear those stories about just bands and people getting together and just recording. And it's like, if your friends are all musicians, like why wouldn't you play music with them and just
and hell, if you got a tape machine, just fucking spool it up and hit record.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I had heard something recently where and I don't know if it was at a club. I've never heard of any recordings of this, but apparently, like before Brian Jones went off the rails, he had jammed or something with Jimi Hendrix.
Dude, I'd not heard. That's pretty dope.
Yeah,
I'd be interested to see what that came of.
I would be too.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be great if any of you out there haven't liked and subscribed to our channel yet. We definitely think you should do that. So maybe make a note of that.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. So you should do that right. Like, subscribe, and comment below. All right, cool. Awesome. But also, if anyone has information or sort of a link or knows of where we could find the Basement Tapes version
I'd like to hear that
song, it would be pretty cool because, again, I thought the Isle of Wight version was the version, but it doesn't sound like it is.
And I love that version. I mean, that's the thing. I'm like, okay, so we haven't really talked about Manfred Mann's version, right? So interestingly enough, they got to it first, we'll say.
That's the one personally for me, that's the one I think I knew.
Oh, me too. Growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the version I knew. Absolutely. And it wasn't until I got deeper into Bob Dylan, and I don't know if I had got his Volume 2 Greatest Hits, which it was also released on. I think that was 71
ish. Yeah, sure.
Or that I had Self Portrait, but I heard that version of it, and it hits you, and you're like, well, holy shit, this is a Bob Dylan song. It makes sense because the writing of it is awesome. And reading a little bit about the writing, I mean, he says it was just a simple nursery rhyme based on Anthony Quinn's character in this. He portrayed an Eskimo in this movie called something like The Gentle Savages or something like that.
I have not seen that.
The Savage Innocence from 1960. I have not seen this either.
The Age of Innocence is a sequel. No, it's not.
No, I could have swore that I read somewhere or heard somewhere that aside from him saying that this was just like a innocent nursery rhyme type of deal, that he kind of put this character of this Eskimo as like a Christ-like character to the point where, if you look at the lyrics, it's like when Quinn the Eskimo gets here, all the pigeons are going to run to him, or everybody's going to want a dose, or what's the other one? Everyone's going to jump for joy. Just like that, when this person arrives, it's like everyone rejoices, because that's kind of how it seems. And I think Manfred Mann's version does a good job of portraying this, because when they get to that part, when Quinn the Eskimo gets here, like the music cuts out and it's just these almost like angelic background vocals that fill it out. And okay, so spoiler alert, I got to go with Dylan in the band's version. I just have to. But I really do love Manfred Mann's version, and I like the fact how they cut everything out there, and they do some nice stuff with the production, and the vocals are really clean, and I could do without the cheese dick flute.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though. I mean, theirs is a studio version.
Yeah.
So you're just automatically going to get a better, cleaner recording. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean, dude, how do you go against Bob Dylan and the band?
I know. It is tough because there's so much soul there. That's the thing is it's just so.
Yeah.
What does he say in Jay-Z's Black Album? So motherfucking soulful.
Yeah. He says that.
Is that Encore?
Yeah. Maybe.
At the end of Encore.
Yeah,
Anyways, it is really soulful. But it's interesting. There is at the beginning of the third verse. As I'm looking at the lyrics, and maybe this was released from his publishing company or something, it says, a cat's meow and a cow's moo to I could recite them all.
Is that what he says?
Apparently, but if you listen to that version, it is... I've seen the transcript from that version, and it just has brackets and says unintelligible because you cannot understand what he's saying.
That's pretty great. That's really great.
And I remember I used to play in a band and we would cover this song.
And you were just
dude, I would just kind of just barf something out because I had no idea what he said. Yeah.
Noonan. All right. Well, I think we both go with Dylan's song. Yeah.
But, honestly, real shout out to Manfred Mann because it's one of those songs where if I was in a shit mood and that song came on, I would instantly, I'd be singing along. Yeah. I'm singing along.
It's a great sing along.
It really is.
Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan. And dude, it reached up to #1 in the UK. I mean, good for them.
Yeah.
I haven't followed them as deeply. I'm not as familiar with their full catalog. Did they have other hits?
Interestingly enough,
concept albums?
I don't know about concept albums, but another one of their most popular songs, also a cover. This time,
sounds like a theme here,
dude. "Blinded by the Light," the song, "Wrapped Up Like a Dude." Yeah, that is a Bruce Springsteen song, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
And at this point, it was probably not quite the same iteration of guys. But I think at this point it was called Manfred Mann's Rare Earth Band or something like that. But that version of "Blinded by the Light," that is a cover of, I believe, a Bruce Springsteen song called "Blinded by the Light." So they are basically a really famous cover band.
You know what? Good for them.
But dude, "Blinded by the Light," also a fucking great cover.
I mean, it's one thing to be able to cover a song. It's another thing to do it really fucking well. And it sounds like these guys got it down. So, and
I just like the fact that this one, they did it before probably anyone ever even heard this version, except for those who were in the basement.
I feel like we should do an episode, just almost. I mean, we could do probably like a 20-minute episode just listing off all the covers people have done of Bob Dylan songs.
Oh God,
I would love.
And
to
not
know,
even talking about, just purely listing them.
I would love to know who holds the record for the most songs that have been covered, because he's got to be up there.
Oh man, yeah.
I'm sure there's some old blues musicians that have had a lot of covers. I'm sure a lot of country artists also do a lot of covers. And I'm not talking about. Here's the thing. I'm not talking about. They played it in 97 at Red Rocks.
They released it.
They put it out on a song. Yeah,
well, and the interesting thing though about country is so many of those songs that people release are not written by the artist. They're written by professional songwriters. Now, I don't even know if I'd call that a cover at that point, because they wrote it just to sell the song, right? To go down on Music City Row. And that's how Chris Christopherson, I think, was trying to start.
I mean, it's kind of like it's like a studio musician who comes in and just plays their part. It's like a studio writer, hey, I'm going to write this song, you record it. I mean, it's kind of like.
I think it'd be interesting though, because if you could land that gig or become, get into this circle as a professional songwriter, and work it out so you still get like publishing royalties and you get all this shit.
Yeah.
But then you don't have to have the life where like you go play, you know what I mean? Like all the shit part that comes with like a famous musician lifestyle.
Dude, and the kids just keep coughing up quarters.
Yeah. yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
The beauty is you can't get to the next level.
Yeah.
So I guess we're going to get to the next level.
Level up.
Dylan's version, but man, Manfred Mann's version is also really sweet.
I am the man.
Gotta say it.
Constant sorrow. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Wednesday.
Court is adjourned.
Tune in while we tune out. Time to go.
Dude and Grimm Show.
Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grimm. Additional music provided by Moore and the Tims. Copyright 2021. The Dude and Grimm Show.
I don't want it no more. About to walk through this door.